fourth and final day of the festival, and of course it's Gold Cup Day, which starts with the Triumph Hurdle. And Chief, it's funny how things change with that. We had Adagio, Zanahiyr, and now Tritonic has come storming through on the back of that win at Kempton, and obviously his win at Ascot as well. Is he? How solid is he at the top of the market?
So Tritonic has just become our favourite at 2-1. Zanahiyr is 9-4. Quilixios is 5-1. Adagio 10-1. Auton Couleur 14-1.
Barry, what are your thoughts on this, and how impressed were you by what Tritonic did at Kempton?
I was very impressed with Tritonic. He's rated 99 on the flat. He's a good run over a mile and a half on soft ground. He jumped well. I thought he jumped. People made Krebs jumping a little bit in Kempton. I thought he was good. He was learning as he went. He was very slick over the two in the straight. No, I like him. I think he's a very good horse. But I do like Zanahiyr as well. I think they're two really good juveniles. And Quilixios is a good horse. He won nicely last time. I think there's a good bit of improvement in his jumping on that run, because he hadn't run since I think it was the end of October before that. So he will benefit from the practice. But no, the top two for me, I think, are probably a little bit ahead of the rest. I like Zanahiyr. I've been riding a lot of his work. I think he's a very good horse, but I would be very afraid of Tritonic. I think they're two really good juveniles. So tricky enough one to call, but I'd stick with Zanahiyr because obviously I have a connection with him. But I'd struggle outside of those two. I think Quilixios has a bit to improve. Adagio improved a good bit to win in Chepstow. He's a lot better than his run behind Duffelcoat and Cheltenham. But I'd have the top two ahead of the field by a good bit.
What about you, Neil? Who do you think?
I think when I first started getting into Cheltenham and watching the races when I was, I don't know, 13 or something, the Triumph was always like a real kind of minefield, wasn't there? There was always dozens of runners and 50-1 winners and stuff like that. And now, obviously, we have the Fred Winter, and it doesn't really work like that anymore. It's a proper quality race now. And I think because these two at the front of the betting are so good on paper, on grass as well, I think it's going to cut up quite a bit. I think a lot of horses that are thinking, should we go for the handicap or should we go for the Triumph? They're much more likely to go for the handicap because these two look, so difficult to beat. So I think it will end up being quite a small field, actually, possibly even less than 8 runners, which is a bit weird, really, for a Triumph hurdle. I don't really like Quilixios that much on this ground. I think it wants a bit of cut in the ground. So I do think it is actually a match. From a betting point of view, it was quite interesting because we had a couple of horses that sort of suddenly did something really impressive, visually impressive. One was Goshen and one was Tritonic on a Saturday in the run-up to Cheltenham. And with both of them, they were instantly cut in the betting and shortened on exchanges straight away. But with Goshen, it kind of drifted back again. Whereas with Tritonic, actually, it turned out that the initial reaction straight away after the race at Kempton wasn't enough because the horse was kind of cut to 4-1. And all it's done since is shorten up even more. Partly, I guess, because of the news in Ireland. Maybe people think that, the Elliott horses are going to be inconvenienced by the situation, especially, if they have to move stable and that kind of thing. I don't know. It feels like Zanahiyr hasn't really got as short as it ought to. I'm a real big fan of Zanahiyr. I think I read somewhere that its time was the best since Our Connor. Our Connor was the best Triumph hurdle winner I ever saw. And I think, if this horse is anywhere near in that league, I think it will win the race. I think it's really hard to beat Zanahiyr, and I'm not going to try and get it beat.
Okay. Tritonic for me, though, having listened to what you said. I love Tritonic. I love his attitude. He looked like he improved mentally, I think. I know he's obviously experienced from the flat, but when he won at Ascot, he seemed a little bit rusty. I know it was his first run for a while, but he looked a lot sharper. And Barry saying a couple of people crabbed the way he jumped, but I think he jumped well. And a couple of times he came off the bridle but as soon as he was squeezed along by Adrian Heskin, he bounced back on it, and he was hard on the steel again. I think he's got a lot in the tank. It'll be fascinating to see how they go.
By the way, I'm not at all negative about Tritonic. It's much more for me a positive for Zanna here. I mean, I think that form at Kempton is really strong. I think the Paul Nicholls horse and the Dan Skelton horse, I think they were third and fourth. Yeah. They both look like really nice horses, and it just looked like a good race. I agree with you. The jumping was, is people looking to pick a little niggle, wasn't it? I found it quite hard to grab the performance. I just felt like possibly the price shortening was a bit more than I expected on the performance. But I don't. Horses that are visually impressive normally shorten up more than they ought to, and getting onto that bandwagon just after something's been really visually impressive is normally a bad thing to do. But I don't know. It's hard to grab the form.
Well, the next race is not going to make life any easier because it's the county. What's the market saying, Chief?
It's a predictably very open market. This is a race where the shunter, I think, of all the races it's entered in, has been best back for. And is top of the market. So it's the shunter 8-1, Genopathy 8-1, Third Time Lucky 9-1, Blue Lord 8-1. I mean, they're all 9-1, 8-1. Soaring Glory 9-1. Then there's hundreds down below it. So, I mean, good luck picking the winner here. You just have to know who's been, I don't think cheating is the right word, but most economical with their horses.
Well, you've used it, nevertheless. It certainly made me giggle. Barry, what do you like here? I know you've mentioned Blue Lord in passing earlier on. I mean, if he lines up here, Blue Lord for you, perhaps?
No, the shunter would be the obvious one of interest. And he's got the 2 days, the extra few days, as Neil mentioned earlier on. But a horse I like is Fire Attack. I think Joseph O'Brien is going to have a good meeting. Now, at this stage, we'll have to tip on about 5 winners for Joseph and most of the handicaps. But I like Fire Attack. He's about 14-1 or so, I think. He had a good run the last time behind the Devil's Coachman, which is a good level of form. And I think he's a horse. He's unexposed. Yeah, for me, Fire Attack, he was a good bumper horse. He has good form at a good level, and I think he's coming into it nicely. So no, I like Fire Attack.
Fire Attack, Neil?
I backed a horse last time out called Third Time Lucky for the Skeltons, and it definitely wasn't lucky because it dragged its hind leg over the final hurdle when it had come there to win and traded ridiculously short in running, and then managed to get beat. But yeah, the Skeltons have done really well in this race in the past and laid ones out for it. And I think they'll be looking to do that here. So I'm definitely going to have to back that. I do quite like Blue Lord, but I'm not sure it's going to run in this race. There's another one I backed last time out, Edwardstone. It was third in the Betfair Hurdle. I think that this race will be run perfectly for it, given that it's a race where I think, I'm sure Barry knows more about this than me, that it certainly feels like a race where you want to hit the front as you jump not until after you jump the last. I've definitely bet horses in this race before where they've led into the last and I thought, I'm going to at least be in the frame here. And I finished about 14th or something like that. So I think something that really comes late has got to be a good thing. And I think Edwardstone is a real strong traveller. And I think that will be the style of racing for that. So I'm definitely going to look at that. On the stats, you definitely want to have a young horse in this, a 5 or a 6-year-old. Older horses have a very poor record in this race. So I'd bear that in mind as well.
Okay. Right. That's a look at the county hurdle. I mean, I'm at a loss to be certain. I'd love to see Soaring Glory line up for the race. But there's still a little bit of uncertainty as to what he's going to be doing if he indeed goes to the festival. The Albert Bartlett's the next one we're going to take a look at. Chief, have you got any steers according to the market?
I do. I love the potato race. And here we go. At the top of the market, we got Statler at 5-1, very solid with all the firms. Then second favourite is Fakira at 13-2. I think we're biggest price there. Barbados Bucks 15-2. Tory Graph 8-1.
Neil, what do you like here?
It really is wide open, isn't it? And I don't think, I mean, last year, this was a fantastic race. I think it's hard to see it being as good a race this year. It probably looks not quite up to the standard, which sort of makes you feel like maybe you should try and back a bigger price one. So I'm sure on the day I'll be looking in that way. I did see a stat that if you just bet all horses who are held up and who finished in the first three last time out, you'd have made money over the last 10 years. Just bet every single one. I thought that was quite interesting. Also, if you any horse who's finished in the top three in a 3 mile graded hurdle, six winners out of 39 qualifiers, and that would be a positive return. It's sort of, I think people bet a lot of horses, don't they, in this race that are sort of promising, young future stayers. And they sort of go for ones that have only run 2 or 3 times and have got a couple of ones by their name. And actually, over the years, you'd be better off betting things that have been to every dance, really. The horses that have run 8 or 9 times in the season actually do all right in the Albert Bartlett. So I guess that's the sort of way I'm looking. There's been a lot of money for Kira in the run-up to the race. That was about 20-1 2 weeks ago, and it's only 7-1 now. I sort of like that. I don't know whether I've missed the boat with it slightly. I know the Nichols people really like Barbados Bucks, and that's been quite well backed. That was 20-1. I think Tony Calvin wrote something tipping it up at 25-1, and now it's kind of 7-1. So I think they really like that. I wouldn't put anyone off, but I guess we've missed the boat there. I haven't had a bet yet. I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but I'm definitely going to look for something that's. I think you get good place terms on the day on this race as well. You often get 4 places, which is quite a good benefit to punters. So it's probably one I'm going to wait for the day.
Okay, Barry, send us in the right direction.
I'd agree with a lot of Neil said. It's not the strongest renewal. I think it's very open, and it's a race in those circumstances can be won by one, but at a bigger price. And also horses have been to every dance, and because it's such an attritional race, that hardened experience I think really stands the horses. So a horse I do like is 3 under through 5. He's a winner of his last 4. He won in Musselburgh last time. You wouldn't expect an Albert Bartlett winner to be impressive on a track like Musselburgh because obviously such a sharp place. But he won. He got the job done. I think he's going to be a lot better for the stiff track that it is Cheltenham on the new course for this race. So for me, he's won. He's about 16-1. Or what price, Chief? What price do you have him?
We have him at 16-1.
Yeah, I think he's a good solid each way bet in what's a wide open race. I think the top 2, Statler and Fakira and Barbados Bucks for that matter, they're not of a very high standard. I think they're very beatable, and it's going to be wide open. So I think 3 under through 5 is a horse who's maybe not fully exposed. He's been to a few dances. He's on the improve. He's a winner of his last 4. I don't see much wrong with him.
Okay. I do like Barbados Bucks, only because I think he keeps a little bit up his sleeve. And I think he's got more to offer. I don't think we've seen, like a lot of them, we haven't seen the best of him, but I think he needs to be hard pressed for his best to be delivered. Okay, the big one on the final day, the Gold Cup is the next race.
I thought you were going to say the Mayor's Chase then, Rishi.
I know you keep referring to it, but you did sign the petition a number of times. We did work that out. But the big race, the Gold Cup, a race. Barry, you won it twice. Is that right?
Yeah.
And in fairness, if you were still riding, it's quite possible that a lot of people would fancy you to win it for a 3rd time because Barry's, or the horse that he rode in such dramatic circumstances, Champ last year, is near the top of the market, Chief.
Champ is second favourite, 9-2. I'd love to know if Barry thought he was going to win with 100 yards to go last year. Albin Photo going 3 times in a row for the 3-peat, 5-2. Aplutar 11-2, Santini 12-1, Milella Indo 11-1. There's loads with chances. I mean, the list goes on, actually.
So, Barry, well, let's start with you. Answer, if you don't mind, Chief's question about when you thought you were going to win on Champ last year, and what are his chances this year?
I'd say I knew before 100 yards. I was 3 lengths down, so whatever stage I was 3 lengths down, I knew he was in the bag at that stage. So yeah, he was bombing home. I knew at the back of the last I had a squeak. I hadn't gone for everything, so he finished well, but he was a different horse in Newbury. If you asked me pulling up in Cheltenham, if you said to me, this fella, his next race, he's going to win a 2-mile chase in Newbury against seasoned horses on reasonably good ground, I'd say you're on drugs. So his performance, it probably was a little bit unorthodox, and it might cause as many questions as answers. He proved in Cheltenham last season in the RSA how well he stayed, but his run over 2 miles potentially could just light him up and make him a little bit keen. His jumping was far better in Newbury than it was at any stage last season. So they've done a lot of work on that. He spent time at Henrietta Knight. Nicky does a lot of work at home himself with it. So I think the horse is in great terms of himself. But the only slight negative is if the 2-mile run has just lit him up a little bit. But it's going to be run at a good gallop. You've got Native River there. You have Frodon might go on as well. There's plenty of pace. So I think Album Photo is a worthy favourite. You could maybe question last year's form, but he won off a slow pace, and for me he was the best horse on the day. I think Santini has an each way chance. He got lost in the horrible ground in Sandown. His run last year in a Storm race, another 50 yards he might have got up, you could say. I think a strong run race would have suited him, so he's got a chance. I do like, obviously if I was to ride one, I'd be riding Champ. If I was riding Champ, I would fancy Champ. But it's tricky enough. Album Photo, you're taking it on trust really, but he holds the highest level of form. I think Aplutar, for me, he just lacks a little bit of class. Manila Indo, I think, wants it soft. So I'd be down to Santini for an each way shout. Champ the danger and Album Photo the one to beat.
All right. I like the Santini shout as well. What about you, Neil?
Well, I can't believe you banged on about last year's RSA. Some of us, our whole week was built around Manila Indo. So, thanks, Barry. Cheers for that. I'm a big Aplutar fan. I've always been a big Aplutar fan. When it won the handicap here a few years ago, and I was on it last year when it was second in the Ryanair. I've backed the horse a couple of times this year. I don't have a doubt about the stamina. I think that's fine. The younger horses coming here, people always, it's a grueling race. We remember the times where Gold Cup winners have never done anything since, and we say, the Gold Cup is a race that leaves its mark, and you really need to stay. But actually, this is going to be a fairly fast ground Gold Cup. And I think young horses that haven't been over the trip have historically, coming here, trying that extra distance for the first time, have done okay. And so I don't have a problem about the stamina. It's possible Aplutar won't be good enough. I think actually the favourite, it's kind of weird, isn't it? Like Album Photo, it's like 5-2 or whatever. Yeah. I remember coming as a bookmaker to Cheltenham and making a book in the Silver Ring when Best Mate was running. And, you get the chance to lay this 2 times winner at kind of even money or whatever. Why should a 2-time winner be bigger than even money, really? I mean, it seems kind of mad, really. I definitely don't want to be laying Album Photo or particularly be against it, but I probably won't back it. I have a bit of a thing about Manila Indo, and I have backed that horse a couple of times. I think it's going to be hard for me not to back that. I think horses like Native River and Royal Pagaille, the ground will just be too fast. I couldn't really have them. Paul Nicholls was saying in that thing I was listening to that I keep going on about, he couldn't believe that Frodon was not much shorter than Santini. He sort of said, look, we thrashed it last time in a King George, a race that traditionally throws up, horses that run well in the Gold Cup. Why should we not be much shorter than Santini? And that is a fairly compelling argument, I think. Although I don't really want to back Frodon. Maybe I just think Santini should be bigger. And Champ, yeah, I thought it was a bit of a crazy plan last time. Didn't think it had any chance at Newbury, and then obviously it ran really well. So you can't take that away from it. I wouldn't want to back it at sort of 5-1 though for this race. That wouldn't be one for me. I thought Vindication actually would be, if I was looking for a real outsider to play each way. Kim Bailey's horses are running really well this year, and yeah, I'm not against that idea. I think I'll definitely throw some money at that. But yeah, I think my main bet would be A Plus Tard.
Okay. I think with Native River being in the race and Frodent, I think 2 years ago when Native River last ran in the race, it was a significantly quicker Gold Cup than it was last year. Obviously, Alboom Photo won it last year, but they were a bit more bunched together. And a horse like Santini in last year's race was disadvantaged by the way the race was run, I felt. And this year, with Native River back in the Gold Cup, I'm expecting with he and Frodent to go on, it's going to be a race where stamina is going to play. So the two horses that I was quite interested in were Champ and Santini, because I felt coming up that hill, if they go the pace that I expect them to with Native River and Frodent in the race, it's going to be a stamina test. And the likes of Santini and perhaps Champ might get involved in the race late in the day. That would be how I would view the Gold Cup, but no doubt I'm probably wrong. And Alboom Photo is going to win it for the third time, and he's going to join the likes of Best Mate Arkle, Golden Miller as a 3-time or more Gold Cup winner. So, you know, what a great history that is for him. The Foxhunters, one of 3 races left to preview at this year's festival. You know, you were talking earlier on, Neil, about people telling you about horses or stats and stuff like that. Well, you know, Foxhunters is not my speciality, and I'm sure if there are other people who would tell you they know a lot more about me than many things. But one of my friends, who is a real Foxhunter special, is waxing lyrical about the chances of Bob and Co in this race, and says that he is as close as certainty at the festival this year as there is. And I said, what about Monkfish and things like that? He said more than Monkfish. He, in terms of his credentials for the Foxhunters this year, Bob and Co is by far away the best. So any support for Bob and Co, or are you going elsewhere, Neil?
I must admit, it isn't a thing that I'm anything an expert on. But come the day, I would say that they almost always, the bookmakers, offer 4 places on the Foxhunters. And normally, and I think the market looks a bit, you can confirm, Chief, I normally you end up with about 7 horses less than 33-1, and you can get 4 places as if it's a really competitive handicap, which it obviously isn't. So it is very advantageous race to play each way in. And I normally end up, it sounds a bit boring actually. I know a lot of my betting is quite boring. I normally end up betting like 3 of the first 4 in the betting each way at 4 places, and just hope to get, you know, either the winner and 1 other in the frame, or 3 in the frame, and make a profit that way. And I guess I'll probably do the same this year. And I'm sure Bob and Co will be one of them. You've made it sound quite exciting. The one I looked at a big price was Paul Bay, which is ridden by well, I don't know. I guess it won't be ridden by Will Biddick, I guess. I think it's his horse anyway. I don't know. I haven't really heard anything about it in the run-up, but I know it wants really fast ground. And you know, I just thought maybe that might be worth looking for on that basis. But I don't know. I see it's drifted in the betting a bit. Maybe it's not going to run. Maybe I just missed that news. I would say I'm no expert on the Foxhunters, though.
Barry, Foxhunters, what do you reckon? We're not celebrating a Gold Cup winner this time of the day.
Yeah, it looks like we don't have an expert amongst us, unless your friend who tipped you, Bob and Co, is an expert. If he is someone whose opinion you would rate, you'd have to take note of that. Billy Way is the favourite. I thought maybe it could be value each way and Staker Wallace. But you'd have to take note if your man knows what he's talking about.
Well, I definitely acquiesce to him on that. Right, 2 races to go, Chief. The Mayor's Chase. I'm just teasing Neil by holding him back because he's been waiting since the start of this preview to talk about the Mayor's Chase. What's the market saying? Another one for Willie Mullins?
Do we have to cover this race? We may as well go on to, you know, the Martin Pike. So the market here is LMA 13-8, although there is some 7-4 about, We are 3-1 Colrevy, Shattered Love 7-1, Annie Mac 8-1, and then 16 bars.
Right, Neil, away you go. This is your moment.
Well, I don't mean to kind of slag off the race. It's just that I would like more handicaps basically at Cheltenham. I like that stuff about Royal Ascot having a bunch more handicaps. So anything you can do to have more handicaps. I don't really want an extra day of the meeting. I just want them to swap a few races for more handicaps. But this has turned out to be a really good betting race. Having said all of that, I sort of was looking at. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the favourite, LMA. I think the form is really strong. It's quite interesting. If Allaho wins the Ryanair, then Ellie May, by definition, must shorten up because it's got contingent form. So actually, that's quite a good sneaky bet you can have. Have a double Allaho and Ellie May, because if Allaho has won by the time this race is run, then Ellie May will surely go off shorter. So if you do like Allaho, you should probably do a double with Ellie May. But I'm going to go against Ellie May just because, we're getting a bit of a price if you do that. And I like Shattered Love. It's a Gordon Elliott mare, and I think I really like her. I've always liked her. She tends to sort of come late and stay on. She's been beaten by the favourite before. I think I backed her actually against Ellie May last time out. I would say she was kind of beaten fair and square, but they will finish quite close together. There's not much between them, although Ellie May is probably better. Jessica Harrington's Magic of Light is also interesting, and I could bet that, I guess. But I think really the main target there is the Grand National, and I sort of wonder whether maybe it might run a promising race and finish third or fourth, but I actually think Shattered Love's got a real chance of winning, and that will be my main bet. That'll be quite a strong bet each way here.
Okay, well, I'm joining you. I like Shattered Love. A few years ago, obviously, she won the JLT. She beat Cabaret Queen a couple of starts back, and then was behind Ellie May. I think she's got a good chance back over the distance. Barry, what about you?
I think Ellie May is going to be very hard to beat. She won nicely last day in Naas on very soft ground. To me, she looks like she'd be better for nicer ground and open trip. So I think she's a worthy favourite. She'd be hard to beat. Coolreevy, I would feel once is very soft. So I think it's going to be a bit good for her. I would agree with Neil on Magic of Light, having a squeak and a little bit of value maybe. And also Augusta Gold, whose form ties in with Ellie May. Now, she has a bit to find with Ellie May, but it's her first run for Willie, having come from Mags Mullins. And Mags is a good trainer, but obviously Willie is Willie. So I think that's one of note. It's nice seeing at the weights as well. So she's got to a good level in her form. So Augusta Gold could be of interest each way.
And so we move to the final race, Chief. It's the Martin Pipe, as you correctly called it. And again, Willie Mullins with horses at the top of the market.
So, we've got Gentleman to Me 11-2, wide receiver, Neil being an NFL expert, 8-1. Ganapathy 13-2, the Shunter again 10-1, Champagne Gold 12-1, Monte Cristo 12-1. I mean, again, the list goes on. There's some that are entered in multiple races here, like Ali Philippe, etc.
Okay, Barry, what's going to win the Martin Pipe?
That is a very good question. Not a straightforward race because you're backing jockeys as much as anything. A horse who I had, he disappointed last time in Leopardstown is Gabinaco. Now he's got a Conor McNamara riding him, who's a very good rider. And I think that's a big positive. But he disappointed last time, beating 18 lengths. His form prior to that is good. In Naas, he was third in the Bob Ollinger race. He ran well behind Ashton Bob in Navan. So it's a tricky race. I would take a punt each way on Gabinaco to return to form, as I say, with a very good rider in Conor Brazel, or Conor McNamara, should I say.
Okay, good shout. Neil?
This is one of this and the Boodles are I find the two toughest handicaps of the week because the weights are so compressed. It makes it so difficult, doesn't it? They're all They've all got a bit tucked up their sleeve generally. I had a massive bet last year, anti-post, on a horse called Front View of Joseph's. And I backed it at 10-1, and I had more slips than Malcolm Marshall. And it got backed into 4-1 favourite for this race. Didn't run very well. They're still running, I think. They tried going chasing with it this year, and that didn't really work out. And now it's back to hurdles for this. 4-1 last year, and 20-1, 25-1, Chief?
It's 25-1 general, actually, Neil. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've got to bet that. I think I'll be annoyed if that wins at 25-1 when I think about how much money I had on it last year. And we've spoken several times. Barry's already said Joseph's going to have 6 winners, so this can really top off a week for him. I think that will be one of mine. I mean, there's a whole bunch of horses you could back here. I think it's a really hard race. I'm sure I'm going to have many more hours studying it in the days to come, but I think Front View will definitely be top of my list.
And I'm sure that the view on the race will change between now and in the leading hours leading up to the final race on the Friday.